Hello everyone. Welcome to Data Science Foundations, an introduction to your data science and AI journey. My name is Sumudhu Tenakon. I'm a data scientist. This is the second video of the series called Getting Started with Generative AI. In the first video, we get a general understanding of generative AI and how it is related to the hype we are seeing these days. We are seeing a lot of products and a lot of chatter going on in social media and others mainstream news, and maybe your co-workers talking about ChatGPT and other generative AI applications such as DAL-E for image generation and various things. You are curious about them, you may curious about getting to know more, or maybe you are wanted to get involved with making your own generative AI applications. So in this part, we are going to talk about generative AI examples. I'll demonstrate you some real examples of things that we made using generative AI and some of the sources I downloaded from internet. Some of the materials I'm going to share with the things I generated using common generative AI applications such as ChatGPT powered Bing or ChatGPT or Google Bard, and also the DAL-E and some other image generation tools. I think you all are now ready to hear about generative AI examples. But before we are going to discuss about that, let's rethink about ourselves as human. What are we doing as human in our daily life? Our human body in some way is a machine. We take input, we interact with the environment, we interact with other human beings and animals. So we communicate, we exchange information each other. We take a lot of data inputs. We are seeing, we are hearing, and we are touching things. A lot of ways we take inputs. Other human beings are communicating with us. So taking those into our processing system, what are we going to do? We are going to generate content. That is basically it. So that is one of the main cognitive function a human has. So generating content. What is the other thing? Making decision. So what we are trying to do here is we are trying to talk about these functions, how we can install in a machine and get use of them. So let's again focus on the human. So we know now humans can take inputs in various sensors. We discussed that before as well. And we can generate a lot of creations. From the prehistoric time, people try to write or draw on cave walls with using different media. And then people evolve their drawing into canvas painting, and now we are doing digital art. From the very early days, people try to make music. So we have the music today as well. So those are the creations or the generative capability of human. We create a lot of different art forms, tangible things, and the written on paper, and sometimes the virtual things. We now have a digital creations. We are making a lot of creations as human. So all of these generated content are generated from human cognitive capabilities, or in other ways, human creativity became this generated content using the human body as a machine who process the information and generate content. I hope that make clear to you about the generative capability of human has. So now the interesting part. We are going to do this with machines. It's interesting, right? So it's a very exciting thing to explore in these times. In the previous video also we discussed about this generative AI. So now human intelligence to artificial intelligence. So what is this generative AI? So we previously tried to understand what is artificial intelligence. So the component AI with generative part here. And then how the machine learning is related to this artificial intelligence. How we can use machine learning to implement artificial intelligence on a machine. And we talked about a little bit of the types of machine learning, etc. So you can go back and watch the part 1 of this video and try to get some understanding. Okay, so now we also discussed how the data science is going to fit into this picture of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and how the data science is going to be helpful, because everything we are doing with the artificial intelligence is a part of the data consumption. So we need data to build machine learning models. We need data to teach machines. We need data to run those learning algorithms for those machines to learn. Okay, so the artificial intelligence and data as a relationship, it's as a tight relationship. Okay, so what is the missing piece? The generative AI. So we also discuss the generative AI. In the recent past, or in very recent times, we are talking about generative AI is an implementation of the deep learning technology, the tools and technology we built over the years. So generative AI we can consider as a subset of deep learning under machine learning, and then that is under artificial intelligence. Okay, so generative AI will give us the capability of bringing machines to do certain things like human does, but not exactly human does, but we can mimic that behavior. That's the definition of artificial intelligence we also discussed. So we are making machines to mimic human, so in a way, so that's what artificial intelligence is about. Okay, so if we take the definition again, the generative AI is a type of AI that is capable of generating text, images, or other media in response to prompts. What are those prompts? We also now know that the prompts are something someone said something to you for you to generate. Someone ask you to write a letter to someone. So that's a prompt. Okay, as a human. So you're now trying to do the same thing with the machine. You're asking machine to do something. So the machine is supposed to do that for you. That is what we are trying to achieve with the generative AI in very high level. Okay, I hope that is interesting enough, and you will learn more about it in the coming slides. Okay, so generative AI is a fascinating topic these days. People generate a lot of content, a lot of fun content. Some people scared, like I described that in detail in the previous video. Some people are skeptic about this one, about generative AI capabilities, and some people have high hopes on it. Some people have like a lot of positive thoughts. Some people feared. Some people were just cautious about the recent trend of the generative AI, like the advancement. But what we should be doing as the people who wanted to get involved with the generative AI is try to make it a better tool for the humanity, to bring us into the next level, than make us going down with it. Okay, so that's a responsibility to all of us, the builders of generative AI tools, and builders and researchers. We discussed about that in the previous video, and also the consumers, whoever is using those tools and technology. All right, so with that thought, so let's move forward with the generative AI examples. Before we go to generative AI directly, let's try to understand what actually we are trying to do with it. Think of this as an example. Okay, so when you are using Google or any other search engine, what you actually do? So you're trying to search something. You have something in your mind. You wanted to find it out. Okay, for example, think like I want to search what is generative AI, or I want to search some articles, or I want to find out some articles on generative AI. So what I do is I go to google.com or the bing.com. So I'm going to start typing on the search engine text box. So what is going to happen when I'm trying to try it? So this is a recorded video, so we can see. So when you start typing, some fascinating thing going to happen. So it will try to suggest you what should be the next word you're going to type. Sometimes they are very helpful. How this is going to happen? So a lot of things happening behind the scene here. A lot of statistical models, machine learning, and a lot of things happening to give you that suggestion. In very high level, if I try to explain generative AI, so it will try to predict what should come next in the sequence of characters you type. So like in this video you just saw, whenever you type in Google search engine or other search engine, the auto completion. All right, so let's talk about the generative AI in little detail. So when we talk about this generative AI, we are talking about the modalities. What are those modalities? So those modalities are the type of data sets used to train these generative AI models. So one could be the text. So those models can interact with you to generate and to understand text form. They are trained based on the text. And the other type of modality is images. So those are trained on images. They can do various tasks related to images, from image generation, image classification or understanding, or the object detection. A lot of things you can do. And the code modality, it's a very useful tool. People start using it recently, which is an AI model help you to write code. Say if you have a data base, or like in your organization you have a data you need to retrieve certain information. What this code model, the models trained on the code modality can help you is, if you want to write a SQL query, what you need to tell to the machine learning model and the system empowered by the machine learning model, hey, I wanted to get this information from that, I have these tables with these columns, and I wanted to get this information. This model should be able, or it's capable of, generating a computer code which is a SQL script to run on your database and to retrieve the information you need for your report. You can also use these models to generate code such as Python or other programming languages supported, or that this model is being trained on. So you can ask certain tasks. I will give you some demonstrations at some part of this video, and you will see how powerful these tools are. The other modalities are like audio. So we can generate music, and we can synthesize speech, or maybe we can use it to understand speech. The models trained on audio data is capable of doing various tasks. And the video is another modality we can think of. The models trained based on the video content. There are many other modalities we will find in this generative AI arena. So hope you're excited and you're encouraged to explore more about generative AI. Let's move forward with that. So when we talk about this generative AI with languages, so that is our first exploration. So let's try to understand what we are doing with language, or the models trained on the text data. That is the text modality. So now think this simple example. We all did in our school, we did filling the blanks, right? So we have a sentence with a blank, and our question was to fill the blank. There are some choices in certain situations, but certain situations we have to come up with our own word. Maybe the creative one, maybe the correct, right? There's a right or wrong answer is there. So in this example, the sentence starts as this: there was a car near my house. Its color is blank. So now think as a human, what would you put in if you were asked to fill this space? Okay, so what the computer has. So if we given some choices, so maybe the choices could be these words: red, for, Toyota, electric. So there are a lot of words. So if you take about all possible words, there could be hundreds of thousands of different combination of characters. Even they are not meaningful words, you can think of all the possible combinations you can put into this space. But your generative AI model is supposed to pick the most suitable one. So that is the training. As a human, when we do this exercise at school, so we had some training, we learned certain things before we attempt to these problems. Our task when we are training generative AI models, or when we are using pre-trained models in our use case, those models are trained to find out the most suitable word to fill this space. What would you think? What would you pick out of these 4 words? At least you think like you have to pick one. So what are the things you consider to pick that letter? So think about those things as a human. This is another way to understand what generative AI is doing, and to understand this technology, think as a human who is doing this task. So what would you do? So there's a context to this sentence, right? So it is the last part of the sentence, or the second sentence, asking its color is. Okay, so this is about something about color. Can it be Ford? Can it be Toyota? Can it be electric? No, those 3 words we can rule out. So the red should be the word here. So we can fill that gap using the word red. So this is an example for you to think what is an application of generative AI in a very high level. This is a very simple application. So let's talk about another one. So this is another sentence. I had 10 apples. I gave 2 to my friend. Now I have blank. So now if you were to fill this gap or fill this blank, you have to understand, and also you have to do some processing, some arithmetic processing you have to do within your brain. Previously, in the previous sentence or a couple of sentences we looked at, you need to think and you need to understand the context and find out the best suitable word. Here, not only that, you have to understand it as well as you have to do some processing. You had 10 apples, you gave 2 to my friend or your friend, and then you have to say something. So what is it? So actually you're going to say how many apples I have. That's the answer. So now what should be the options you will be presented with? So we are presented with these options. Red apples, now we have 2 words instead of 1 word before. So 8 apples, 5 apples, 8 oranges. So we can roll out easily like 8 oranges. So oranges are out of the context. So that we are not talking about oranges here in this sentence or this paragraph. Okay. So we're not talking about any other thing but apples. But three choices are related to apples. Okay. So that's one way you can narrow it down. So now we're talking about something related to numbers, because this you can also argue in a way like, okay, I have red apples, but are we talking about red apples before any part of the sentence? It's not very related to what we are talking about. So you can think of the 2 choices, 8 apples and 5 apples, and then when you process these numbers, 10 apples minus 2, then what is the answer? Is 8. You can fill the blank with a choice 8 apples. Okay, so this is what generative AI is supposed to do when it is going to fill this blank. This is not an easy problem, seems to be, for generative AI, even for you as a kid. So you have to do a lot of learning and then you have to apply it. So sometimes some problems are not very easy for us as a kid, but now we understand with the practice it is easy for us. But think of the generative AI, it's not that easy as we think, but somehow it's supposed to give you the answer. Which part or which 2 words should be comes next is 8 apples. All right, I hope that entertain you, and I hope that help you to understand a little bit further. Okay, so now let's talk about little complex example. So what is this? In our daily life, when we communicate in this digital era, we communicate using electronic forms. We send emails, we send text messages, we do chats, we put comments in social media, a lot of things we do, right? So this is an example of generating email response. So assume you are a business. You're going to receive thousands of emails per day. You have to have someone to respond to them. Could be transactional emails, means like the order processing, could be a lot of information requests. These things can happen in a typical organization, or if you run a small business, you have to do this in your own. How cool if you can let machine to generate replies to your customers or the people whoever sending your emails. There's a catch. We'll discuss that in detail in our next video. So you cannot completely rely on a machine to respond and interact with your customers, at least now, like without your supervision. But we have ways to handle that risk as well. There's a risk, but think you can generate emails at least, and then you can look at them, and before you send, you can approve, or you can say it is okay or not. So this is one application of generative AI. We will talk more about it in the next video. This is an example. So you have an email. So it's sent by someone, the customer, asking about order placement. That email is about order placement, and it has some information in it. So now as a vendor or the person who is running the business, so you're supposed to generate an email and reply to this customer and say whatever the action you took related to this email. Okay. So now you have the email, you have the generative AI system facilitated by the model, or the model embedded within it. And then you are telling that model, hey, write a reply to this email. So whatever in the green is what what are you going to tell to this model. And then what you see in the orange color is the data part or the content we're going to send as a prompt to the generative AI model. And then in the blue line, you see that is another instruction piece for your generative AI model or the system, how to begin the next piece. Remember in our previous example, what generative AI is doing actually in the text modality is completing your sentence or completing what you left at. So your generative AI content or the generated content should start with dear, and then followed by that it should generate the email. We all know the email can start with dear and then with say like in this case, let's see what is being generated. This actual example I ran through the OpenAI, and it will generate this email. This is a real generation from OpenAI. So it will start typing, because the email sent by the customer called Maya. So it will say dear Maya and then say a few things like human writing, and then it will write the email with the details as you would write. The part in blue or the right side of this slide is written by generative AI model, and it perfectly identified the content and put things into proper places. Let's look at them. So what are the content, the main parts of the content? Who sent the email and to whom it addressed. So that part highlighted in yellow. Let's focus on the left side or in the orange font. So that identified the email sent to John, and also email is written by Maya. The first name and last name also identified it. And when it generates the email, it says dear Maya, because we knew, or the generative AI model knew, this email is from the person called Maya. And it also identified the address and also the contact and the customer number, and everything identified correctly and placed into the proper location of the generated email with the meaningful content. Okay, so you see how it is being related, how the identification of the original email from the left side, when the model is generating the right side email, how the relevant data pieces or the information being transferred into proper location without destroying the meaning, and also to keep the human-like flavor into this email response. Things like thank you for your business, nothing from the original email. So it is being generated. I have received your order, because model should be able to understand this is about the order placement and about the receiving order. And it also give you the action items. I will ship the order to the address you provided. So here the original email provided the address, and the order account number is provided, and it will say we will use the account number to process. So there's nothing in the original email about what to do with the account number. The customer just said my account number is. The model should be able to process that and to generate this content as a human does, right? And also for the courtesy, or like to be like more human-like, or to be friendly response, it says thank you again for choosing the company. So the company also identified, and we look forward to serving in you in future. So this is this one particular piece is having a trouble with. Okay, so that's what I wanted to highlight here. What do you think about this XYZ company LLC? Your model identified this as a company name, but did it translate correctly to the generated response? No. Keep that in mind. Those are the things we need to watch for in the generated content from generative AI. So we have ways to mitigate that. We have ways to guardrail those things. But here is an example I just wanted to show you, right? So it's not always perfect, but it does a great job in generating this email from the original email, given the prompt. We will talk more about it, but this prompt, whatever is in green font highlighted, is very important you have to give explicit instruction, the correct instructions to the model. You cannot expect your model to do anything from anything you say. You have to give explicit instructions. We now discuss about the text modality and how we can generate text from a given prompt. So we know now what is a prompt in very high level. We will discuss more about it later. But we have some understanding of how an example of how the text being generated from language models. So this is another interesting thing I wanted to highlight in this video. So we all know about Transformer movie, which are like robotics machines, so trying to do various things. Okay, so I don't want to talk about it now. And we know other transformers, right? So the electrical transformers and various things. But here is a very important thing happened in 2017, which is a paper published by a team from Google Brain. So that paper named Attention is All You Need. So they introduced a concept called transformers, which is a neural network architecture. So their discovery or their invention helped us to build the things we are talking these days, like ChatGPT and various other pre-trained models related to generative AI is coming because of this technology. So the transformers is a major breakthrough. So if you're interested, you can go and read this article. I have the link on the slide, as well as I will try to put in the description as well. So let's try to understand a little bit more. So this in this transformer architecture, people were using traditional ways of neural networks. Traditionally, it's like several years they evolved, but people are using for some time, and then there were some limitations. I will talk more about these transformers and what are the limitations we had with the other neural network architectures before it, and how the transformers overcome those related to the memory issues and related to the performance and a lot of things, right? So we'll talk more about it, but this video is mainly about showing examples, but I wanted to put it here just to give you some understanding of this breakthrough paper and this invention. Okay, so if you talk about the transformer in very high level, so this image was directly from the paper, but I will create like a very simplified one with an example. Again, think about a situation you wanted to translate text. So we all have translators. We do use Google Translator, Bing Translator. There are various forms of translators. How you can use a person to translate from a different language to another. In computers, we use compilers and interpreters to translate our computer code into machine code, right? You know the translators. So now, think of a language translator. So you have English to say, hello, how are you? That's English. I'm not a Spanish speaker, but I think the translation is correct. So you input the English sentence. Let's think this is a machine learning model. Should be able to translate and give you the translated output. So that's what it is happening in very high level. So now put the transformer in place of the machine learning model. It's a neural network architecture we know now, right? So it has two main components, which is encoder and decoder. It will take your input, encode, and then do some decoding in a way we can translate into a different language. So you can train this encoder decoder, the transformer. So you can have like a system built with the transformer architecture and then do language translation. Actually, the transformer, the paper, they discuss about this language translation as one of the applications. Again, if you're interested, you can read more about it, but I will also discuss that in detail in a different time. Okay, so now we know few things about the transformers. Transformers has two parts, encoders and decoders. It can be used to translate language. Now we can explore some of the methods we use this generative AI application. So this is not about transformers. This is another the way of generating content. So which is called generative adversarial networks, which we also call GANs. So this website, if you go to thispersondoesnotexist.com website, you can generate images of people who are never being on this planet Earth. So these are not real people. all of them are generated content, but I will give you some inside of these images. It seems to be they are real people. You will see as real people, but if you carefully train your eye to identify whether they are real or not, you probably will see some of the details to judge they are not real. Okay, I will show you few. So one of the things you can say, like if you divide the image into two parts, left and right, you will see the very different parts of the human body, right? So main things I will highlight. If you are looking at the image of a woman, so you can see the earrings, right? So there are two different earrings. It could be a person wear two different earrings, but in this case, it's we can clearly see those are from two different images, generated from the two different images taken as inputs. So this ear is using a very different earring, and this one is very different. And also the symmetry, you can have some understanding, some color different shades, right? And here is another clear example. This person wearing a spectacle, but the left side and right side has a very different way of like representing the spectacle. Okay, so there are and also the earring also is different, and here you have the similar thing, and you can see some face features of the face and the shape of the ear of the person. They are very different. Okay, and also the eyebrows and eye color, sometimes you see like slight differences. So those differences, using those differences, you can easily identify whether they are generated or not, but it's tricky. I know it's not that easy. So we will have some challenges of getting that, but here I wanted to highlight. So these are the images generated from the generative AI models. So how these images being generated? Like I said, this is called generative adversarial networks, or GANs, right? So GANs, if you think about the way of generating, you can think of like there are two groups of people. The first group of people will generate images, okay, from noise. So their task is to generate images. We call them generator, or we can say that group is generator. So they synthesize images out of the blue from the random noise. So they generate images. And then there's another the training data set. And the training data set is fed into the second group of people. So those are the people who decide those generated images are real or not, or maybe fake or not, or they are can be approved or not. So they are the decision makers. So those group we say discriminator. So we have two parts now, generator and discriminator. Now we can translate to machine. So think like no two systems are working together. One system generate images using random noise, and the second system decide whether they can be approved or not. Sometimes this random noise generates some images, and then you can discriminator may say, okay, this image can be approved by using the learning it got from the training data. So it's a game between these two, right? So the generator is trying to build the images can pass through the discriminator. Discriminator is trying to find out the ways it can fail based on the learning it get over the time. So this system can learn. So after at some point, the systems can generate images very similar to the training data, but not exactly the training data, but it can be the data generated from, like we saw earlier, the human faces, right? So this generative adversarial networks can be used to generate images, as well as there are some applications to detect some fake or real things. Okay, this is one of the image related generative AI application. So think now, very similar to the filling the blanks example with text. So now you have an image with a missing piece. We all solve puzzles. So you want to fix some parts of the puzzle together and complete it. So that's what we do as an activity. As a kid, as an adult, we do that, right? So we complete puzzles. So how an AI system can generate an image for us? We are not generating that image. We are trying to find out the best fit piece of that puzzle. Sometimes we may destroy that piece, or we lost that piece. Therefore, sometimes we do as a kid, we try to draw that Think of that, right? So your machine, poor machine, don't have that piece of the puzzle supposed to generate that content. So what are the choices it can have? Okay, so this could be the choices. Okay, so those are not exactly images. Now you think like it can generate images. So think of like the previous example of the GAN networks, or generate image from the noise. It generates several images and try to find out whether this image is going to fit into this location. Or maybe we generate images based on the surrounding of the remaining part of the image. So there are many ways. I'm not going to talk into very technical details, but think, what would you use to fill this blank or fill this gap in this image? Whether you use the topmost one or the other one of the other three. What are the things you consider? We would consider the color or shape or the objects detected in the rest of the image. So various things, right? So using those various things, your machine learning model is supposed to decide what should be the image or the filling part of the missing pieces of the image. So another application of generative AI with images. Now we learn about at least two applications of image related ones. So generative AI images can generate generative AI models can generate images from a text prompt. This is a special case. Previously, we used images to train model and images to give the prompt as well. I mean, filling the missing piece of the image, you are giving image, and then your model is supposed to identify what is the best piece to fill the gap, right? But here, instead of giving image, or we are going to train the model to translate human prompt or like a sentence or paragraph, whatever written in the human language, to an image. Sometimes we do games, and sometimes in school we have a description and ask us to draw something, right? So like that, we are giving that task to a machine. Hey machine, can you draw this to me? So in this example, this is a real prompt I gave to DALL-E and another tool called Night Cafe. So I forgot actually which one I used to generate one, but the prompt is this: a panda astronaut taking a spacewalk. That was the real prompt, which generated the image on right. Okay, so now you identify like how cool things we can do with it. So we just give like a description of what we need, and your model is supposed to understand it and generate an image which is going to be very suitable for your prompt. I asked this and it gave me this. What is happening under the hood? So when I give this prompt in the text, so I typed it in, and the application should pick it up, and then it should pass through the generative AI model, will take the text as input and generate the image pixels as output. We will talk more about this in detail, but I just wanted to show you the example or the application here. So this is another example. I forgot exactly what I asked. So if I remember correct, this is a very early time when they introduced DALL-E. I started drawing some various things out of curiosity. If I remember correct, it is about a puppy class taught by a master dog or something like that. So we have this image. This actual image generated based on a prompt I gave to DALL-E. So we can generate a lot of cool things. Some things are out of our human imagination. So we can say very crazy things. It will generate the content. We can apply our human thoughts or our imagination into an image, even if you are not great artist, or if you are not people who can draw things very cleverly. So we can put our thoughts, but we may have good thoughts of like creative ideas. How we can translate our creative ideas to an image or an art form? So we can use this generative AI models to do that. Okay, so I think this entertained you a little bit. Stuff, I will talk about two examples, so which you can use generative AI to generate code. Okay, so in this example, I'm going to generate SQL query from text prompt. Assume I have a database of students, maybe from a school, maybe from a class, with student information, the subjects they are taking, and their marks from a test. So I want to combine and get some information to a report. Probably I don't know SQL very well, but I know what are the tables and this table structure looks like. I can describe as a human, right? So let's try to do that. And I'm going to use Bing search engine powered by ChatGPT, and then I'm going to provide my question in human language. So see like what I'm going to type. This is a recorded video, but I will describe the key points. So I'm first going to describe what I have. I have a database of student information, okay? And then I'm going to describe what are the tables I'm having. And I'm clearly mentioning what is the table structure looks like. I'm going to say the chat engine or the generative AI model. So what are the table names, what are their primary keys, and a lot of information. I will do a little bit of fast forward from this point. So I'm typing my table information, and then my second table which is subject. The first table is student and the second table is subject. I'm going to provide that information as well. And then I'm going to provide the primary key of that table. So let's forward, and then the third table I'm going to provide as the name is grade of the table, and also describe what are the other columns available in that table. And then I'm going to post my question. What is my question? Or what I wanted to achieve is I wanted to get average grade for each subject from the student group in this term. So I basically wanted to know what is the average marks each student got in this term, right? So not each student, but average mark for the subject in this term. So I gave the problem, or I gave the prompt to this Bing search engine powered by ChatGPT, and then I'm expecting the answer. So it's supposed to generate me a query as expected. It is typing now the query, the SQL query as the response. How cool it is, right? So we ask the question as a human, and then this generative AI tool is capable of giving you the script or the SQL query for you to run on a database system. But not only that, you also get a description of things. Sometimes be careful about these things. Sometimes these tools can generate incorrect information, but it is a good baseline for you to begin with. If you have the domain understanding, or if you know the script, this will save some time for you. If you don't have the understanding, but this could be a starter, but don't 100% rely on it, you can do some trials, or you can have it as another form of understanding. But using this as a learning tool is not 100% thing you should be doing. You should re-verify things. You should try to run it yourself and try to correct it. Maybe some errors could be there, you have to overcome with that. You can ask follow-up questions as well. You can keep this chat going on. If you got an error, you can ask the question, because this chat history will remember what we were talking about in the previous chat, at least up until 20 different instances. Okay, so like that, this code modality is going to be a very helpful generative AI tool when it is being like developed in next few years. Okay, so right now it is in the current form also, it is very helpful. So now let's look at another example. So we looked at SQL script, generating SQL script before. So now let's look at an example how to generate another computer code given the text prompt. This time I'm going to generate a Python script. So let's look at it. So my prompt is generate a Python code to draw a flower. So which is quite unusual. We can draw a flower using DAL-E. But I wanted to create a Python code to draw a flower. So this is what the being powered by ChatGPT is going to respond to my prompt, right? So my prompt is generate a Python code to draw a flower. So then what I did was I took the answer, or the output from the being powered by ChatGPT, and the Python code I put into the VS Code code editor, and then I try to run it. So this is what I get. I just copied the Python code from the Bing output and then run it in VS Code. So what you see on the right side is what I get. So it draw a flower. So how cool this is, I will go back to the prompt. I just asked to generate a Python script to draw a flower. So this is my prompt again. I'm letting you see it. So I provide a prompt. I typed it in as a text, and then the Bing powered by ChatGPT so generate the code for me, which is, by the way, this is trained using the code and the text both, so therefore it can work in the both code modality and the text as well. So it generates the Python code because I gave my prompt, right? So what are the things it needs? So I say give me a Python script or Python code, not any other programming language. And also I specifically say the task, which is draw a flower. So now it's supposed to identify or understand what I'm asking, and based on that, based on the previous learning it had, it's supposed to generate the code. So this is what I get. And then next, you already saw it, I put into the I copied the code into VS Code, and then I executed. This is what I get. Okay, interesting. Okay, so these are like a few last items. Again, these are like two things I generated in the very early stages of when I'm experimenting with ChatGPT and other image generation tools. So first one is in December 2022. I just wanted to generate a New Year greeting. Everything using generative AI, from images to the poem and the sound as well. So what I did was I generated a poem given my thought into ChatGPT. This is generated using ChatGPT at that time, ChatGPT 3, I think. I gave my thought, what I need, and then I asked ChatGPT to generate me a poem including this thought. It generated me a really nice poem. It really suited to my thought, and I really liked it. The second thing I did was I gave like a similar prompt to image generation generative AI tool called Night Cafe. So that generated me a set of images matching that thought and the parts of the poem. So using those two, now I have images, now I have the poem. So what is remaining? I wanted to create an animation or the video. I wanted to speak it up. I could speak it up, but it's better to have like a nice voice to it. So I use another image generation tool to synthesize a voice using the text, basically to recite the poem. So it generate the voice, and it one generative AI tool generated the poem, one other tool generated the images, and the other tool generated the voice. Three things together, I added them and then created the video for as a holiday greeting. So what are the things being used? So human thought, so which is prompt. So I gave to both image generation as well as the poem generation. And then AI generated poem, of course, and AI generated images together. And then AI generated text to speech. And one of the missing piece, I put all of them together with my human capabilities, and then using the tools available, I put together this video. You can watch it, and I'm not going to play it here, but I will put the link. If you would like, you can watch it. It's a nice poem. I really liked it. Okay, that's the first one. The second one is another example. In this example, I created a poem. This is another I put a little bit of longer prompt with a lot of thoughts to it, and I wanted to generate a poem about life. I gave this prompt to ChatGPT in January 2023, so this year. And then it generated me a poem, and I followed the same steps. I generated the poem, and then I let another generative AI text to speech tool to generate the voice, and then it generated this nice video. So what is being used? Human thought as a prompt to generate the poem, and the video here I did not generate using ChatGPT, using any other generative AI tool, but this is my own video I took while I'm traveling. So this video I put together with a poem with a voice generated by the AI tool, and then put together as a video. This is also a very interesting or very nice thoughtful poem generated using ChatGPT. Actually, in this exercise, I generated like couple of poems and then combined them into one. So I did a little bit of human work there, but mostly it is generated from ChatGPT. I have to give that credit. Okay, so now you know like some fun stuff and some real like work you can get done with it with a lot of generative AI functionalities. We learn about text, we learn about images, how to generate sound or music. I don't have example for the music, but you will now know how we can do things. So, and we also looked at how to generate code from a given human prompt, right? So various examples we will explore it further, and you will find out very useful things to your daily life if you start using these tools to learn and apply at your work as well in with certain conditions, right? So it will be very beneficial. All right, so with that thought, so now I'm going to leave you 3 questions. So first question is, who are the true creators of the content generated from AI? So we use AI generated content, right? Who are the true creators of it? Are the AI models or the machine learning models are responsible for the 100% of the creations? And the second question is, whose creativity and imagination fuels and drive the generative part here? So we are talking about the generative AI, right? So whose creativity and imagination fuels and drive the generative part? The third question, can AI systems learn to generate content without what we are talking about? So think about it and try to find the answer yourself. Who is behind all of these? Is machine or human? So let's try to figure it out. It is all around human creativity and human creation. Without us creating the content which is being used to train these models, can these machines learn by themselves without human content before they learn? No. So they learn, or like these machines learn, or these machine learning models learn based on human content. They are the ones we create using our own creativity. So what we actually do, like this is something misconception people have, like, okay, so people worried about, okay, losing the creativity of human, losing jobs and various things. We will talk about that later. But so the things about human creativity is not going to be under lost in this any circumstances. So we have to generate our content for the machines to learn more, but what we can use the machines to make us more productive, make us more creative, think creatively. Like I explained earlier, you may be a person with a lot of creative thoughts, but you are not good artist or you cannot draw well. But you can put your thoughts into an image or illustration, or you can express your message to other people in terms of presentation, in terms of video creations, a lot of things, right? Using this generative AI. So that makes us better humans. Okay, so think about it, and we will talk more in the next video. This video we talked about a little bit of fun stuff and what are the things we can do with generative AI. In the next video, we're going to talk about how we can solve business problems with generative AI. I will give you some examples and some applications how we can do certain tasks. So we already looked at it, one task about generating emails, generating images, and using code model, the machine learning models trained using code modality to generate code to do various things, and we will talk more about it, and you will get to know more about this generative AI and its capabilities in the next video. We will be continuing this series for a couple more videos. We will learn the capabilities, we will learn the applications, and we will also learn about limitations. In these limitations, we will try to discuss about how we can overcome those limitations and meet our expectations. Okay, I hope you will be with me in the coming videos, and see you in the next video.